Okay, so this is one of those episodes that
Right.
I was a little bit worried about.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those ones where it's like there's some good exposition. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Some good bits of world building and stuff.
Yeah, but it's mostly just exposition
Yeah.
on the powers in particular. And then nothing really else happens.
Yes.
I mean...
They did talk to Hisoka, but even then it was kind of like a, until next time. You know?
Yeah, it's not really a... There's no real content in the actual discussion. There's nothing new that was brought up.
And even the conflict that they could have had with the struggle of actually learning how to unlock their 10 super quickly, they brushed over and time skipped it. Like with
which is okay, because I get that they're saying, hey guys, we would rather show you rather than tell you. So we're going to tell you what we need to at the bare minimum. And then we're going to show you this Nen in action.
Yes.
Through fights with people that are more experienced with it, and then the protagonists, which are not skilled with it, which are going to develop their their own way. And I think that's going to be good when you look back at this in context. But at the individual level note, like per episode, it's going to be pretty slow.
Well, and I was just a bit surprised because they spent a fair portion of the previous episode building up to the idea of, will they be able to learn it in time? And then the actual learning of it was done in like 4 minutes.
Easy.
And they also built up this thing of like, oh no, it's super dangerous, you could die, all this stuff. But then it's like, wait a minute, that seemed pretty easy. Like, if it's not easy, why doesn't everybody do it that way?
Well, I think the idea is you have to take into account the prodigy aspect of these two characters.
Of Gon and Killua, yes.
And what I find interesting is that as these guys get more and more abilities, as they get stronger effectively as the shonen way goes, they will be put into more dangerous situations, which allows us to figure out what their limits actually are, which is why I think you want Gon to lose in particular, is because he needs to find that he has limits.
Right, exactly.
And he needs to be more of a thinker and kind of a creative creative fighter, rather than just, I'm going to stand here until Hanzo bludgeons me to death because I kind of buggered up the rules and intentionally so that this is the only way.
It's the idea that, like, because Gon's 12, right? And he's in this crazy world and stuff. And by the way, I'm fine with the idea of, like, prodigies and stuff. Yeah. And I'm also fine with the idea of the just general personality and force of will of Gon having an effect on the people around him and stuff. And
which now we actually have a power system that puts around will into effect. So
and that's awesome.
It's a very good foreshadowing in a way.
Right. I just want to make sure that because it's not progression if you haven't reached your limit. Right?
Sure.
It's like with like lifting weights or something. Like if it's a weight that you could have done anyways, you're not actually getting stronger, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see that kind of stuff happen, especially since some of my favorite moments with Gon have been at those points where he realized there were some things he couldn't do, like, with Hisoka and stuff like that.
When he got angry and Hisoka, gave him back the tag.
And then he sulked afterwards, like...
That was something else. That was pretty cool.
That was something I had not seen from an anime protagonist, like, almost ever.
Yeah, with Nen being this aspect of soul and aura and having there be this energy that everyone has access to, are there aspects of this show, Jacob, where you feel like people are going to have different interpretations of it? Because here's a thought that I think this could be really cool. Is if Nen is just energy, they could just have it with being energy blasts at each other and auras and stuff. But they've added in the idea that you can fuse it into objects.
Right, and even almost that's better than just sending it in a blast.
Exactly, because then there's no risk to you if it breaks the energy on the device.
And it's probably more efficient, too.
Yes, but my thought is because this could be easily interpreted different ways in our culture here in the real world, just like in this fictional world, are there going to be people that see it as something else where they're like, oh, we don't call that Nen? It's kind of like forced traditions in Star Wars.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's like, are there going to be different cultures, like the Phantom Troop treats Nen differently than, say, Hunters do? or generally than people that fight in the ring. Like maybe they'll be a little bit more dirty in their tactics and stuff.
Not everyone necessarily treats it as an academic pursuit, even though Wing very much does, especially with how he trains Zushi. But some other people could see it as like, you know, this mystical thing, you know.
Right. Or, you know, someone like Kurapika from his tribe. His clan or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they could, you know, treat it a specific way. I'm kind of wanting it to be kind of like the Force in that regard, because one of the things with the Force is that it's this energy created by all living things and what have you. But there's so many Force powers in the EU.
Yes.
There's so many different things people can do with the Force. And I feel like this is one of those techniques that has multiple different ways that it can be used, and it's more about your imagination rather than your limitations.
And an important aspect of that is making it so that having imagination and coming up with creative ways to use it actually matters. It actually does something, as opposed to in something where, like, say some anime where you're like, that person has a really creative power. You could use that in some really cool ways, tactical advantages and stuff like that. And it's like, no, it doesn't matter because it's not some random energy blast, you know.
Right, because random energy blasts are always more powerful than
anything else.
And I feel like this is the show that's intelligent enough to not do that.
Right.
That it will respect it in that regard.
And from what we've seen so far, they haven't done that.
As of right now, I feel like we need at least 5 fights before we even get an idea of what, like, Nen's usage.
Sure, yeah, because so far, I think
it's pretty basic right now.
Right, the only things we've seen Nen used for, I believe, is
the aura radiating.
The
putting into objects.
Mm-hmm. And that's it.
That's kind of it.
Oh,
it's
and
kind of the defense and
masking your presence.
Masking your presence, yeah.
So,
I mean, here's the thing, Jacob. We probably could have seen something different, but we might have missed it. One of the thoughts that I have is, since Hisoka's thing that he did when he went all creepy and stuff might and probably was Nen, and the fact that we didn't know at that time, there might have been other things that we missed that were similar to that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, we're none the wiser because we're first-time watchers.
Maybe Ulumi's shape-shifting thing with the pins, or, you know, the needles or whatever, was Nen-based as well. And then there's also Netero. He hardened himself against the strikes.
We're pretty sure that was
like basic Nen usage. Like,
that was 10.
Technique.
That was just 10. Yeah.
Exactly.
But we have the 4 pillars written down somewhere.
Yes.
So it's Ten, Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu.
Yes.
And what do they correspond to?
So 10 is point, or focus the mind. Mm-hmm. Zetsu is tongue put into words. Ren is temper, intensify your will. Hatsu is release, put into action. And then there were 4 other words along with that. I might be wrong on the third one, but it was shroud, null, I believe knowledge, and then force.
And those were the wrong ones. These are the right ones. Because remember, he gave them the initial one, and Killua read into it that he was lying. And now in this case, it's something that is there. Question. Does Gon's senses have the potential to be a subtle Nen usage that he just does subconsciously?
That could totally be a thing, because 1, they've been a little bit inconsistent. 2,
true,
there are things, and I know that, like, they've been doing all kinds of things that have been impossible so far, but like, that could be a way, like, oh, you thought that was, like, just because he was super skilled? No one can smell like a bloodhound, you know?
Right.
Like, not a human anyways. That was actually just Nen.
Well, I like the idea of using it as a pseudo-retcon, because if you tie everything back into it and it makes sense, suddenly you've got some genius, like, way of explaining things that, you know, it actually makes sense. The problem I could see is that the power is becoming convoluted and maybe a little bit bloated in terms of it's how you could do everything. But I feel like the fact that they showed, and this is something very interesting, Jacob, when he was showing the type of people around the world that could use Nen, he showed a bunch of professions.
Yes.
He showed musicians even.
Right.
And that gets me excited because it makes me feel like this is another level of things like the Hunter Association where it's like,
sure,
doesn't mean you just hunt animals or hunt people.
Right.
It means you could be like an explorer, like Gon's dad, who was like an archaeologist or something.
Right.
And you've got like people who want to be doctors or cooks absolutely. And all those are valid because there is a way that you use your skills for that kind of skill or profession that works.
So like for cooking, would they like infuse Nen into the thing they're wanting to cook in order to like cook it more evenly or something like that?
Well, I'm meaning like, say Gon's senses are put into play. What if they could like read frequencies? And it's like
that'd be pretty cool. He can like see radio waves.
Like musicians and stuff, they're able to tell like how to hit the perfect note on things. They kind of create their own music based on what's like harmonically,
because they actually harmonious. See like little numbers. Like, okay, so this is
right. Like there's all kinds of ways they could take this.
Sure.
And with having them be the raw, untapped wells, reservoirs of power, young shonen protagonist type characters.
Yeah.
I would love to see where they differ.
Yes.
Because think about it this way. If they're best friends, like, going forward into this whole thing, what if their, like, way that they use Nen is completely different?
That would be pretty cool.
And not only is it completely different, it's like it's complementary. Like,
sure. I'd love to see that.
Like, because they unlocked it together or something.
Right. And they said something, Wing said something about unlocking, like, figuring out the specifics of your aura or something like that.
Something like that. I don't remember, but...
but that makes it seem like there are very different, there's differences from person to person.
Well, right, but I don't think it's going to be a thing of saying, well, I choose to put it into cards. I choose to put it into spinning tops.
Right.
It's more of like...
more fundamental differences,
right. Right, like Gon's is his senses and maybe his speed or something like that. And Killwa's... I don't know. Like, maybe his thing is the family's ability to, like, biologically change themselves. Like, Illumi had the Gitterocker change. Killua had the claws thing.
Right, and I get the feeling all of them can do that, yeah.
Yeah, but what if that's tied into Nen in some way?
And we kind of need there to be variances like that because, like, we've heard a lot of good things about this power system. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the stuff that we have right now, they're the pillars, but they're very basic pillars. Like
very basic.
Like you wouldn't really be able to, like, I mean, unless they did some crazy like expounding off of this or whatever, I couldn't see ways that they would have really like fun explorations of the power with what they have right now. Right.
There needs to be a little bit more detail. Yeah. One thing that I kind of see with the Ten, Zetsu, Ren, Hatsu. I'm starting to get it like almost perfectly now. Is 10 is basically you kind of going, you kind of focus. And then Zetsu is you speak out the name of your attack type.
Right. And that's probably where a lot of the variety comes from, because that's probably where it, like, becomes
but then the
specific.
Ren is the focusing of the will, right?
Intensifying your will.
Intensifying your will. So that's basically you directing the flow of energy. Like, you you build up the energy, you define the energy, you direct the energy, and then you release the energy.
Okay, sure.
So I feel like there's a nice 1, 2, 3, 4 sequence to this whole thing.
Okay.
And all of those could be different based upon what kind of environmental factors are involved in the fight.
Maybe this is how you use Nen.
Yes.
But what you can actually do with Nen
is
something infinite, more like the Force in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Because I would love to see someone literally do like some kind of like telekinetic grip with Nen, where they basically apply pressure up on their Nen and keep them from,
Sure.
And the only way for them to maybe lose grip of you is you have to turn off your Nen, which risks you getting hurt by this attack.
Okay.
And then they grip you, pick you up, and just start slamming you into the ground.
Sure.
Like those types of things, I'm like, okay, like that would be cool. Because if I feel it as like there's this aura and it radiates out, well, why can't I direct it into like a specific way to where it's not just an energy blast or something dumb like that, but it's like there's like something you can do. It's basically like having an arm that reaches out and you punch someone from really far away. It's like JoJo's Extendo Punch or something like that. But in this, it's more it's more thought out.
I think what some of the things that I would really want to see in this is one. Okay, if anyone infuses Nen into their armor, into armor, that would be awesome.
I think the point of it though is that Nen is your armor, or Ten,
right?
Specifically, the aspect
and that's a good point. That's a good
armor.
question, because if you think about there would need to be some rules on how you apply Nen or Ten or whatever in order to be more efficient, because otherwise, it's just
using it.
Otherwise, it's just a matter of who has more energy in their reservoir, right?
Right.
And that's the only thing that matters. So.
Well, here's the other thing. We don't know that physical attacks are always blocked by Ten. It might be that
true.
Nen only blocks other Nen attacks.
Sure.
So just a regular brawl, you'll still need to have techniques.
Okay, sure, and that
that
might be a way that armor could actually help. If you use Nen not just to defend yourself against Nen, but you could also use Nen to reinforce the armor, kind of like how Wing reinforced the paper to be able to slice through the can of soda.
Yeah, I think we can actually look at this as we can kind of see how this is where other anime have taken inspirations from and kind of
reverse engineer
back to what the kind of things there are. So I remember in My Hero Academia they talked about things like a reinforcement type, and they basically brought up things of certain types.
Yeah, okay.
I think that there will end up being classifications of it in some way.
Okay.
I don't know why there should be, but I feel like it's more of going to be a thing of I'm better at compressing my Nen into an object or around me, or I'm better at directing my Nen out.
Okay, sure.
That kind of stuff.
and that falls into the four types or the four
somewhat.
uses,
Like the people who have the words maybe thing down, they're really good at the Zetsu part. Maybe they could actually utilize some form of impressions, like mind control.
Oh, sure. I was gonna say
pushing thoughts or creating sound waves or something.
I thought you were going to say something akin to magic spells or something like that.
Well, no, I think the point is that by putting it into words, almost all of these you basically give the reason why they have the shonen trope of all the attacks are named.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's in the rules.
It's in the actual power system.
You have to actually name it in order for it to work.
Sure.
It's not like a spell necessarily that the words determine the thing that you're saying, but
it's the evocation of the intent.
Yes, or the invocation in that
invocation,
way. Because you are focusing your mind on a specific idea, and then by what was the next word? Tempering your will.
Yeah. So Zetsu is the putting into words. Ren is the intensifying your will.
Intensifying your will. So basically, it's saying I desire to eat a cookie. Right. And then it's saying, no, I really want the cookie. And then suddenly your soul, your aura,
fetch me that cookie.
Your Nen or whatever, reaches out, grabs the cookie, but that reaching out is actually the Hatsu. It's basically where the Nen extends past yourself.
So here's something else I would really love to see. I want to see actual stealthy type ninja setup, type stuff used with this system.
Like what Killua did, they could shroud their real self and then create the clones.
Well, I'm not even talking something like that.
Okay.
I'm more talking... This was one of the things that got me really excited about Gone. Because the idea, just general, thorough, untrained, blah, blah, blah. It's wow, I've never seen that before. But once they went into him stealthing, I was
very sneaky.
Okay, now that's cool. That's cool, because... The idea that you can have someone take out something that they shouldn't normally be able to take out in a straight-up fight, but because they set everything up to their advantage, and then they're able to actually take down something much bigger, that's cool. Like that, I get really excited about that.
Yeah, Gon setting up the whole thing with the fishing pole to ambush Hisoka is a great example of that. It still didn't work out perfectly, but...
Wait a minute. I think we actually have a lot of info about the Nen system. If we think back to the Hunter exam, so Gon and Killua and Leorio and Kurapika, well, probably Kurapika, don't know anything about Nen. But that doesn't mean that the other people in there, other than Hisoka and Illumi/Gitaraker, that doesn't mean they didn't know anything about Nen.
True.
The girl that had the bees in her hat, how did the bees just, sink into her hat? How was she able to control them? The trap that the dude set for the snakes and things like that?
Okay.
Those probably were all tied to Nen somehow.
Possibly.
I mean...
I don't I don't
I mean,
have
maybe
like a,
not
I don't
for
have
all
like
of
a
them,
great
but
image in my head for most of these. I remember the bees in the hat.
like that was something that
That
physically
didn't
didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, so,
but I feel like in terms of imagery, the only really obvious one is Hisoka's
his zombie thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then,
you don't get that image out of your head very easily. I'm gonna say that. Like, I want to talk about the episode a little bit and also more about Nen, but I just say Hisoka as a character, I feel like they really did the rival power ceiling thing right by him, because he doesn't bear the full burden of the rival part. He doesn't bear the full burden of the power ceiling part, but he's just there. And when he's there, you can feel that little bit on your skin just kind of tingle. You're like, oh, this guy, he's creepy.
Well, and one thing I would say that's important to point out about Hisoka is that right now, like, if we had to pick a villain, like if we were forced to, we'd probably have to pick a Hisoka.
Yeah, there's no one else that completely fits that role. Yeah.
But Hisoka's not really a villain yet. He doesn't have some crazy evil intent that we need to stop, other than the fact that...
But we don't know what his intents are.
We don't know what his intents
are. That's the point.
So that's mystery, which is great, but then it also means that... that his actions, it keeps the heroes proactive, because they're not just working to stop someone else. And two...
Pay attention, writers.
And two, it makes it so that Hisoka can succeed at what he's doing, because he's not always in direct conflict with the protagonists.
Because the world doesn't revolve around the protagonists.
Exactly, right.
The protagonists are a part of the world. They are our focal point into the world, but they are not... the sun. They do not. Nothing revolves around them.
And even here, Hisoka's world very much seems to revolve around Gon, but that's just for Hisoka, right? Because he's taken an interest in Gon and all that,
and that's intentional.
Right.
That's not something where he just kind of does for no reason.
Right. It's not the whole thing of like, I want to take over the world, but these dang teenagers just keep getting in my way, and I can't stop them. You know. No.
Also, by having it be mysterious in that regard, we kind of infer some questions that aren't being asked. Like,
like,
is Hisoka like trying to gild Gon for like his potential to grow? Well, why is he interested in Gon but not Killua?
Right. Like, well, he did say that he was kind of interested in Killua.
Yeah, but
I think the reason he's most interested in Gon, other than the fact that like maybe they're doing the thing the shonen protagonist has the most potential, but it's the idea that Gon, one, Gon's personality, but also two, the fact that Gon was not officially trained. So with Killua, it's like, okay, yeah, he's already pretty good, but this is like Hisoka is raising the chicken, you know, from when it's a chick. This is probably how he sees it in his twisted mind.
Yeah.
And he's going to raise it all the way until it's fully grown, and then he's going to slaughter it.
He's like, it's going to be so delightful.
As opposed to buying like a chicken that's, you know, already like a month
pre-frozen
old
and
like
pre
exactly.
It really is interesting, because when you think about a hunter, Hisoka kind of creates the perfect negative image of a hunter.
Right.
He
just
plays with
general.
his food.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, oh, you're gonna be good. It also gives kind of this really creepy vibe off of him, because these are kids.
And I'm pretty sure that is very much intentional.
I think it's very intentional also, because his design in of itself gives off very ambiguous I'm pretty creepy vibes with him, like licking his lips. And
I'm pretty sure at one point he also said, these young boys are making me all tingly or something. Like,
yeah.
On
a slightly also weird note, there was some very goofy phrasing when Wing was training them to unlock their net.
Yeah.
I was like, phrasing.
I get the feeling it's one of those things like in Fate or whatever, when it's like, okay, transferring the magic circuits. You know, it's like, in order for this, we need to have skin-to-skin contact as much as possible. It's like, I know what they're hinting it could have been if this was, you know, rated a bit different.
Right. It's basically giving fuel for the
right, exactly.
For the fan art.
It's the same kind of thing when what was it when Deku's like, I have to eat one of your hairs. He's like, well, it doesn't really matter what it is as long as it has my DNA.
Yeah.
Anyways. So This next fight in particular, I'm not super excited for it, but
not really.
The fact that they are taking the time with the other people on the 200 floor, and these are just the new people to the 200 floor.
Yeah,
that excites me for all the other people, because they also they said this floor to get past this floor, but not this set of 10 floors.
No, they don't separate them into sets of 10, I think, anymore. I think the point is that when you win a certain number of matches, you can then face off against the floor masters.
If you win all 10.
No, if you win at least 10.
Oh, okay. I thought it was that they have to win 10.
Maybe they have to win 6 out of 10. Maybe they have to win 10 without losing 4.
Yeah.
I think that was the rules. Yeah. And if they win 10, then they can start moving up through the floor masters.
Right.
And I guess since the floor masters don't total 51, then that means that the floors, 200 to 230 or 200 to 229 are what they're essentially fighting in right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I hope it's not... I hope they don't get really too much into it, because this is giving me very weird SAO vibes, kind of generic just fighting arc vibes. It's one of those things that I feel like HunterxHunter, for all it's kind of cracked up to be as one of the greatest shonens of all time, this is one of those things where it's okay, is this the slow part? Is this the part that we kind of have to get through?
Although hold on, because Hisoka specifically said, after you beat one of them, you can come fight me. So all Gon has to do is beat one of them. He has to win one fight.
Without losing 4 times.
Exactly.
I see. My worry is that I feel like there's going to be 10 fights in a row on the horizon for our heroes, and they I just hope they're different. Here's the thing, I could be disappointed in at least 1 or 2 fights. Okay.
Yeah, with 150 episodes or whatever,
exactly.
There's bound to be
But if they keep making them unique and different, cool. I am going to be okay.
Right, because this is the way for them to use showing rather than telling to develop this system that they've introduced.
And I think they've done a healthy amount of telling, but I think they might even be able to sneak in a little bit more telling.
Yeah,
I think they don't have to shift all into showing,
right? Because
I feel like once they start showing techniques that we don't understand, say Hisoka is fighting Gon.
Yeah.
And Gon gets just horribly destroyed, but Hisoka's kind of playing around with him,
Yeah.
Wing could be talking to Zushi, back there and being look, as Hisoka does blah blah blah, then that means that the blah blah blah.
That classic
blah, blah,
technique
blah.
of
of having the side characters that are giving exposition for us.
Sure,
I feel like it's going to happen, and I'm just preparing myself because I've seen enough of that. But it's HunterxHunter, so I'll give it a pass for now. But I want to hear from the comments, actually. What are your guys' thoughts on that kind of generic kind of shonen fight, where you have the main characters involved in the fight that's sort of plot relevant, but it gets dangerously close to almost no plot relevance, other than training and getting stronger for the main protagonist. Right. And then the side characters basically just sit there and go, oh, as expected of Gon-kun. It was an amazing move with the blah, 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 blah.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's something I would say.
Okay.
All right. We're watching a show right now that basically has that as its main, well, not its main thing, but one of its core, tenets and pillars. That's Haikyuu. If you think about the games, they don't really matter plot-wise, but they matter character-wise. And
I kind of disagree on the plot stuff because
the plot is the characters?
No, because the characters involved make it plot relevant.
Okay, sure.
I don't know this red guy in the...
Right, and that's a way that they could improve these fights, is make it so that
fighting the Phantom Troop, for one, at some point in the future will be an example of that. It has to be, because the fact that they've hyped them up so much, I feel like that's going to be an example of where we will know every single Phantom Troop member's name.
Yes,
we will know maybe their gimmick. We will know maybe a little bit about their personality, and it will be okay. now this is a fight that you're going to be excited about.
Yes.
Even if there's actually no plot relevance. Say they're just fighting for the sake of fighting.
It's
sure. Like, I don't like you. Yeah, I don't like you either. Your face is ugly. And then they fight. It's like, they could be that dumb, but it would actually mean more.
Because the characters are established.
The characters are established.
Yes.
So right now, I see this as more of Gone training montage.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they're using showing, which is good, but they could have made it a bit better by working it in such a way so that while it's showing to introduce this system, they're also either using characters they've already established or setting up characters that are going to be relevant later on. Like, maybe it doesn't quite seem like, very good fights at the beginning because we're like, okay, these characters seem throwaway. But if they actually did justice by the characters as like a way to introduce them, and had them like carry on into later episodes, then I'd say,
Hisoka weaving in potentially in and out throughout this kind of arc would make it more entertaining. Would make it a lot better too.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm just really excited to actually see the different ways that the powers are going to be used. Because the main issue I have with the fight that they set up right now is that the way he's using Nen is exactly the same as pretty much every sort of stereotypical way to use Nen that we've seen thus far, infusing it into objects. Yeah, Wing did it. Hisoka's done it. I want to see something different.
Yeah, so that would be cool. All right, guys. Well, if you want to watch the next 2 episodes of Hunter x Hunter right now, you can check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. And get on early access and get on the Discord. We'd love to chat with you and see what your thoughts are on storytelling and such.
All that stuff.
All right, guys. We'll see you all later. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.